Hello, everyone. My name is Craig Walker, and I am running a test live session here in Val's Voice and Val's View. So I don't expect anybody to show up, but it'd be nice if you did. So let's see what happens here. 33 minutes. I'm going to be running a regular session and talking a little bit. It's late in the evening here, so this is impromptu. And as Alan Bakers would say, I have a tad bit of overexuberance at times. So, Rumi! I won't bring you on video. And I wish I could speak Japanese. I'm so glad you're here. I'm going to run a test session. We're going to have a globally interwoven, nonlinear, dynamical journey together, a synchronization through chaos. And I'll be running the session to some custom music in honor and appreciation of this auspicious, well, I like to think it's auspicious journey. The Police's Synchronicity. Somewhat apropos. But again, I have some extrinsic constraints that I'm dealing with, some pain. I've lost a lot of weight. Trying to sort that out. My mind is as sharp as it's ever been. And guess what? That's because I let my brain dance with Neuroptimal. So let me get the session started. I'm going to keep the camera on me. It's hard for me to move things around. I might move it a little bit, but I don't want it to get too fuzzy. And let's get going. So I didn't have Neuroptimal fired up. So again, I have some extrinsic constraints. I'm a bit impulsive. I'm a bit overexuberant, but I'm just so, I get emotional, excited to be a part of this group and to be, as much as I possibly can, Val's emissary. I can never replace him. Absolutely never replace Val. But I can be on that stepladder that he provided to me many years ago, back in 2018, when he brought me in the beta group. And so let me just focus here on what I'm doing. I need to know what I'm doing. You would think after all these years, I know how to start an optimal session. And if you have a chance to hook yourself up and join me in running a session or not, we're talking here, as Alan would say, some possible spooky action at a distance, synchronization through chaos, quantum interconnectivity, and we'll see how this goes. I need to get my Mr. Consistent client up because I run sessions all the time. Now, remember, there are individual differences, situations, and responses to training, to everything in life, right? So while I'm telling you that I cannot overtrain, and I truly cannot overtrain. Now, there are times I'm not going to train, so on and so forth. It's just a choice. While that happens for me, it may be way too much for someone else. So you need to trust your gut. This is a client-directed process, and do not let anyone tell you differently. Oh, well, you need at least, X number of... No. Understand, get them to help you understand how Neuroptimal works, what it does and what it doesn't do. Here's my Italian hands. Francesco, where are you? I I talk with my hands a lot. But again, let them help you understand what it does, what it doesn't do, and then trust your gut instinct. And if you feel like running a session, run it. If you just do not feel like running a session, don't do it. And if you feel like this is not for me, I wish you the many blessings and the very best in finding what does. Because that's what we all want here. We want everyone to have a magnificent journey in personal transformation and a relief of suffering. Okay, so I'm finger challenged too. I have a bit of arthritis. Mr. Consistent, hang on a second. I need you to see this. Hang on, bear with me. I don't know if you can see that or not, but I am Mr. Consistent. Back to me. I'll try not to get my big ugly mug in the way here too much. And here we go. So preparing the session, it would be a wise idea for me to plug in my Z-Amp. Well, okay, Craig's not that bright, so on and so forth. But, see, make sure I plug it in the right way. Oh, I did it right. Yay, me. We'll try again. And bada bing, bada boom, bump, bump, bump. You won't be able to hear the music or the interrupts. If you could, you wouldn't catch my brain cooties. But those of you that are in here know what a session sounds like. So, no harm, no foul. Start my music up. I better lower the volume. I like it loud and proud, but not this loud and proud. That's better. Okay. So one of the things that I posted earlier was my podcast a few years ago with Val, Living Words, which I absolutely love. He also uses the term languaging, but it's all about the present moment. The present is a gift, so to speak. But, in that video, he shared his, his lifelong passion, his interest in psychology, technology, philosophy, yoga, martial arts, and early exposure to computers. He got the first copy of PL1, Programming Language 1. Unfortunately, he didn't keep it. I just love listening to him. And he introduced the concept of living words. It's language infused with consciousness that invites awakening and a deeper presence. It's contrasted with your ordinary mechanical speech that you hear me use. Got to adjust here. Oh boy, I used to be so pretty back in the day, or at least I thought I was. And now I'm turning into a combination of Yoda and Gollum. Yalum? Goda? I got to adjust the volume a little bit. I hope y'all can hear me. Give me a thumbs up, Rumi, if you can hear me fine, if you would. And if you can't hear me. So, sorry, I really can't dance, but it's really fun. So one of the things that Val talks about in our webinar, and God, it's just fantastic to have that opportunity to be with him, one-on-one. And, my podcast career was not very auspicious. Never really had any viewers. So there's a lot of money that I thought, well, maybe I'll put a pin in that and put that on the shelf for a future date. And Facebook Live is free. Ta-da! He talked about the power of the interrupt. And in Neuroptimal, the feedback is an interrupt. It's a brief pause, as you know, in the audio stream. And what he said is that it serves as an invitation to wake up, to return to the present moment. Now, this is for the brain, the unconscious. Neuroptimal is an unconscious process, and it can wake us up consciously as well, but I sleep a lot during my sessions, and they're magnificent, work perfectly fine. And in that return to the present moment, in that invitation that your brain decides whether or not to accept, you can let go of habitual patterns rather than a punishment or a correction. So, my hands are cold. So, you know, when we talk about Neuroptimal, and we talk about Neuroptimal with folks who are in they hate the term linear, but their process is based on mathematical algorithms that are linear as opposed to nonlinear and dynamical. So, you know, I mean, hey, it's traditional, it's classical. Lise will gently cajole me when she sees this video, and that's fine, because I do understand where she and Val were coming from on that. But, you know, EEG is a 4-dimensional phasor. It is not a 2-dimensional sine wave. Brains do not wave. Right? And so Neuroptimal uses the mathematics of the language. They speak the language of the brain in terms of joint time dash, and the dash is important. It's the most important part per vowel. Frequency analysis. You need time and frequency. And that JTFA allows for the actual measurement. I'm adjusting my volume here because it's interrupting my train of thought. To actually visualize EEG as 4-dimensional, as a phasor. So it's extremely important to Neuroptimal that it uses joint time dash frequency analysis. And it also measures it in novel ways, which is kind of secret sauce stuff that I'll never understand. I don't math well. But it also uses nonlinear dynamical systems process control, nonlinear dynamical systems control process mathematics. Got that reversed. And that allows for the detection of emergent variability. Flutter. Think of the hummingbird as you're watching and listening to it, and it's just about to dart away from the flower. That flutter precedes that movement. The flutter, the emergent variability detected in Neuroptimal across the 20 time dash frequency analysis, or time dash frequency envelopes, excuse me, that precedes a change in phase state. It's before it happens. Okay, it's very critically important. And that can provide an interrupt. Now, when you're looking at the matrix mirror, you see the 20 time dash frequency envelopes or targets. They're rectangles. They're displayed as rectangles, 2-dimensional rectangles on the matrix mirror screen, and, you know, moving in and out. You see the target lines, white. You see when a target is triggered, they turn orange-brown. Now, when what you see, again, this is a very simplified visual display of an extremely complex process going on behind the scenes with all the mathematics and everything. And keep in mind, those time dash frequency envelopes are not rectangles. They're hypercubes. Okay? 4-dimensional hypercubes. I have images elsewhere to kind of show what EEG as a phasor looks. And Val has provided a video in the past as well. And also an image of a hypercube. I'll see if I can, after the live feed, I'll post that in replies. Now, one of the things you need to know about me, Mr. Over Exuberant, is that when I post a video, instead of posting successive posts, I post in replies. Every once in a while, I'll tag everyone. I try not to do that because, I don't want to annoy people. But I'll provide that information there. I don't see you, Denise. If I wanted to, I could bring you on the video, but I won't do that with anyone else. You're only seeing and hearing me. And see, I need to get on the phone here and see exactly what Denise. By the way, hello. So I somehow linked into this. I cannot see you, and you see and hear me. Fantastic. That's great to know. But I thought I was just watching, not hooked in. No, you're not hooked in, unless you're hooked up. Which, if you want to hook up and join me, synchronization through chaos, baby. Oh, you're welcome, Denise. God bless you. Thank you for showing up. This is a test, okay? I want to create an event in the future and see if, as many people as possible would like to watch us, would like to join us in running their own sessions. And let's see what happens. And we go get Alan Balkers in to talk about spooky action at a distance and whatnot, because that's his wheelhouse. So anyway, where was I? I was talking about the time-dash frequency envelopes, right? Let me do this. Let me do some splaining. I'll move the camera. I didn't want to do that. Guys, fat fingers, so on and so forth. I'm tired. I've got some pretty significant extrinsic constraints. You're doing your tax return. Yay! Well, no, yay. Sorry. Sorry about that. Yeah, that's fine. And remember, we can't see you. You can see me. Anyway, I was talking about my extrinsic constraints. I'm going to be brutally honest about this. I have lost over 50 pounds in the last couple of months. I do not know what's going on with me. I've got a bad back, severe sciatic pain in my right leg. But again, my mind is sharp as a tack. I've had some success in my previous careers. Some pretty wonderful success, things that I thought, that's my magnum opus. I go out on that. Nothing like where I'm at now. I just feel like my brain is just shining and wonderfully so. Look, I'm so humble and grateful that I have had Val as a stepladder, and I'm in a place, I don't want him to be ill. Would never wish that on him. He's struggling, okay? Had that massive stroke, but his mind is sharp as a tack. It's just, he's left side of his body is impacted. He can't use technology. So I check on him every day. I check in with him. I just do a little check-in with my prayer hands and my blue heart, in a hug. And sometimes he replies and sometimes he doesn't, and I accept that, but his mind is sharp. And I'm just so grateful that he's trusting of me enough to allow me to be his emissary. And, I was a looky-loo in Val's voice. That's his baby, okay? You don't need me chiming in thinking I know all that in a bag of chips, right? But now is the time for me to help Val get his wisdom out there. And then eventually, get that left side. We got to get him training. Now, here's the deal. I'm very frustrated about this. His rehab center has a neurooptimal system, and they are supposed to be training him regularly. And I don't know as of late, but it's been gathering dust. Can you imagine that? Here he's created this magnificent technology for us, and they're not training him. The best possible thing for him. The brain's a hologram. Okay, we lose function somewhere. It gets picked up eventually elsewhere. And Neuroptimal, well, I know we can't make medical claims and so on and so forth. This is just my humble opinion, gang. But it's perfect for where he's at right now to help him. So I want everyone to put their prayer hands together and send that energy to the neurology team at his rehab to get him connected and get him training as much as he wants. And he doesn't need to be Craig, overtraining Craig, over exuberant Craig, but he needs to train. Oh, sorry, I was going to show you. Val is requesting that, as is Marta, but for whatever reason, it's not being followed. Let's see if I can turn the camera. Okay, so here's the matrix mirror, right? You see the spectra? Don't worry about the spectra. Okay? It's just a visual display, and there are the targets. And let's see if we can see some movement, which, is neither good or bad. It happens all the time, right? The brain is constantly scanning the internal and external environment. There we go, baby. And looking for relevant information to it. And remember, now, at 256 times per second, Neuroptimal has access to that information about its own electrical activity. And then it makes the decision about whether to proceed with a change in state. Think about it. Okay, so, I'm sitting here, I'm tired, but I want to do a Facebook Live. And all of a sudden I get an interrupt that I'm not, that precedes me just nodding off. And my brain says, wait a minute, you got a Facebook Live to do here. So it reorganizes back to the previous state, if that makes sense. And again, folks, if I'm saying anything that doesn't make sense or doesn't jive, I'm open to critique. So, but if I'm laying down after this feed is over and I'm still connected, because I like to train when I'm sleeping, and my unconscious or passive audio processing works magnificently. And I'm just preceding that nodding off. I was all excited about doing the Facebook Live and connecting with Denise and Rumi and Alexandra. I'm just so happy to have you here. Okay, so, preceding that nodding off, boom, the brain says, let's go. Time to sleep. So I put it back on my mug and continue talking. Okay, so now remember, we were talking earlier about the math, joint time dash frequency analysis, which again allows us, or Val, in the secret sauce type stuff and whatnot, in the development team, to actually visualize EEG as it truly is in a four-dimensional form and in novel ways. And then nonlinear dynamical system control process mathematics, which allows for the detection of that emergent variability. So critically important to what we're doing here. And the creation of AutoNav, which is, I'm not always comfortable using this term, but it is our AI that's built into Neuroptimal that allows it to make all the decisions. Denise, I don't know about Rumi, but Denise, you were a V2 person, right? You came on with V2, so you had to make adjustments. Well, that's all gone. We don't need to do anything but facilitate we're not supposed to use hookup, but, I'm going to use hookup, the application of sensors. We facilitate the connection to the Neuroptimal system and allow a person to train. Or if they're renting the system or they own their own, they do their thing, baby. And AutoNav takes care of the rest of it. Now, every time on the matrix mirror, when you see what appears to be a target being triggered with that orange-brown line going somewhere, in between or out. And remember, we're talking four-dimensional time-frequency envelopes. We're not talking about, two-dimensional rectangles. AutoNav adjusts the difficulty during the session moment to moment So people say one size fits all. Hogwash. It is comprehensive and adaptive to each and every session. Here my hands going all over the place. For each and every person who trains. Micro moment to micro moment. AutoNav is looking at that degree of difficulty. You know, I need to talk to Val more about this when we get a chance, but you know, my humble assumption is that, you know, there is enough information in what we're gathering. And I got a question. Give me just a second, Alexandra. So it's gathering that information and, you know, maybe it can tell when the brain's fatigued. Maybe it can tell when you're a little too excited. And so instead of going in that progression from Zen 1, Zen 2, Zen 3, Zen 4, that warm up, that stretching, that workout, you know, the global synchrony type thing, and then the cool down. Well, it's moving through that. It's providing information via AutoNav to adjust that session. That's why it's okay to stop a session early. We don't want you to. It's not a standard operating procedure, but there's no issue if you need to get off immediately. You know, the soft landing occurs regardless. Okay. So I hope that makes sense. Now let me look at and Alexandra, I don't have my glasses on, so could you explain why it is not recommended to have 2 neurooptimal sessions, one after the other? I do it. Okay, there is, you know, Val told me a long time ago that we would disagree that there needs to be integration with the brain. And I completely, as an individual, cannot overtrain. Now, individual differences, situations, and responses occur. Some people, that's way too much. Some people have, you know, a very difficult time doing neurooptimal. And again, it's up to them to decide whether to continue or not. And you know, Alexandra, I'm sorry that you had a headache. But again, that's your body, your brain telling you, you know, it's time to stop. And again, you can stop early. Okay. Don't worry about that. So go with the flow and just let me know if that answer helps. You know, give me a thumbs up or whatever you can, please. So where was I? Waxing philosophically here. I get my extrinsic constraints. So let's talk about nonlinear dynamical systems versus linear models in the webinar that I did, the podcast that I did with Val. You know, the core theme is that the brain and real world experience operate as complex, nonlinear dynamical systems sensitive to initial conditions. Self-organizing and holographic. Carl Pribram, The Form Within. In every part of the brain lies the whole of our experience in terms of perception and memory. You want to know more about the phenomenology of perception? Read Maurice Merleau-Ponty, who is another influence on Val. So we got Carl Pribram. We got Sigmund Freud. What was the name of that? He did The Project for Scientific Psychology. There we go. Brain pop. Where he felt that the brain was like a steam engine, you know, and Val, paid attention to that, said, you know, that he understood where Freud was coming from and using, you know, his analogy of the time. So we got Freud, Projects for Scientific Psychology. We got Carl Pribram, and the holographic, theory or holonomic theory of the brain, which is based upon Dennis Gabor's Nobel Prize winning mathematics for the hologram. Pretty complex stuff. I don't math well, so I can only understand it at an extremely high level. We have Maurice Merleau-Ponty and the phenomenology of perception. We have Alexander Luria, I believe it is, and the fact that there's graded equipotentiality where the brain is concerned. And, you know, we don't have absolute values, basically. So that's the background. Linear mathematics and cause and effect models are limited and often misleading when trying to understand consciousness, perception, memory, transformation. And, you know, the example for nonlinear is spaceships, planetary orbits, and everyday human experiences, excuse me. So let's see what else I have here. Sorry, guys, I just threw this together. I apologize. You know, I mean, you know, in the holographic model of the brain, each part contains the whole experience. Now, remember something. Even though a hologram contains the whole experience, and, you know, you can take a piece and it's not complete. We have ongoing sensory inputs that are going on. And so, you know, when you have situations like trauma responses and whatnot, you know, the brain is about survival, not conscious thrival. All right. It learned to keep us alive. And those habitual behavioral patterns are what it goes back to. And so we have these ongoing sensory inputs that are going on without neurooptimal being in the mix. And the brain goes back to what it knows keeps us alive. But as neurooptimal becomes a part of the process over time, and again, we're not talking medical, we're not talking therapy, we're talking about just training, the training process. What happens is that the brain gets that orienting response preceding that descent into, oh my God, you know, a hungry, tired tiger just came into my room licking its chops. If the hungry tiger's real, your brain's going to say fight, flight, or flight, right? If the hungry tiger is imagined or dreamed, and it becomes aware of that through an interrupt preceding that, the brain will learn that new comprehensive behavioral repertoire. Doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen. And, you know, guys, I'm going to tell you my story, a little bit of my story. I'm going to release my entire story eventually. But I have a diagnosis. I played football as a young man, loved it. I was known by my buddies as the flying anvil. That meant I led by my head, right? Multiple concussions, okay? You know, and my problems with sciatica in my back are related to that. When I was 20, I went on a workers' comp, had an injury. I went to the Sac State Health Center, low cost. Doc looked at my x-ray and looked at me and he said, "You played football, didn't you? And you didn't sit the bench." And then he showed me where compressed discs and bone spurs and what he described as spondylolisthesis, where the fourth and fifth lumbar were out of alignment. He said, "You're going to be hurting when you're 40. Well, I managed to make it to 60. And karma has bit me in the arse. Thank you for letting me know, Alexandra. Any more questions? Yet I remember somewhere that I read, don't know where, that we should not have more than 3 sessions per day at a distance. Oh, goodness gracious, that's a myth. Absolute myth. Again, client directed. What feels good feels good. And, you know, now this is where I feel really proud of myself. You know, Val used to worry in the early years as he got to know me that I was overtraining, because I was having, you know, there's bipolar disorder runs in my family, and I'm not diagnosed, but I know that I have had my fair share of times with mania, impulsivity, making really poor decisions, people not understanding me. And so he was concerned, deeply concerned about, he's not concerned about that anymore. He goes, I kind of agree with you. You can't overtrain. So, sorry. I get a little, yeah, there's my overexuberance, gang. So where was I? So he talks about brain function and neurofeedback in that video. And we discussed the EEG versus brains don't wave. Okay. Phase relationships. He talks about the holographic model of the brain, how the nervous system is deeply interconnected Gazzaniga, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. His research, people misinterpret that. Okay. The left and the right brain. It's an interconnected, globally interwoven, dynamical flow of information in terms of electrical activity, or EEG. And again, over time, the brain can adjust. If a part of the brain is damaged over time, another part of the brain can take care of it. That's what I'm hoping for Val. And the issues that it having with the left side. So the nervous system's deeply interconnected, and we use real-time feedback to support the brain's natural self-organizing process. So what kind of feedback do we use? Negative feedback. Negative, not in a bad way, but it's essentially with the music and the interrupts, it's a takeaway of information. Val likes to talk about the sailboat analogy. With a properly constructed sailboat with 3 lines, and you got turbulence, wind. And I don't like to use the word turbulence. I like to use the word flutter. Flutter is neither good nor bad. It happens all the time. But essentially, if you let go of those lines, the sailboat will turn into the wind. Right? Okay, so that negative feedback provides a takeaway of the information, the relevant information. The brain's listening to some cool music. In this case, for me, Synchronicity by the Police. And my shirt. But where was I? I got all excited about the Police and Synchronicity. Essentially, it gets that information. It gets that negative feedback that provides the orienting response preceding the change in phase state, and allows it, capital IT, think A Wrinkle in Time. Now, our it is benevolent. I digress. It picks up on that relevant information to it, and it's looking for survival, not conscious thrival. Okay? So, release your expectations, folks. The brain knows best what's good for us. And again, it's client directed. Feel like it's not best for you? Don't do it. Me? I want more, baby. So that's, in a nutshell, what's happening with negative feedback, as opposed to positive feedback, which is, electronic M&M, or they call it a reward, but, Val disagrees with that. Can't remember exactly what he said about that. I'll try to pick up and put that into the replies. The feedback is negative because it does not direct the brain to work in a certain way as the linear tech does. Essentially correct, yes. It's just information. That's all it is. It's an invitation. The negative feedback is an invitation. Best way to describe it. For the brain to decide what to do with that information. And the brain knows best. Okay? Did that make sense? I hope that made sense. So positive feedback, and wait till I'll upload an old audio of Val talking to, I think it's Rob Kroll, on his early podcast about the concept of operant conditioning and what Val thinks about that in terms of neurofeedback. Now, there's no operant conditioning at all in Neurooptimal, okay? It's information processing theory, the invitation. Learning, actual learning, gang. The brain is learning about its own electrical activity and making its own decisions. So, where are we at time-wise? I got 52 seconds left. I'm happy to stay after my session's done to answer questions. I am getting a little tired. But, I'll stay, 10, 15 minutes, whatever you folks like, or, if you're tired of listening to me talk, that's great. This is an invitation for you as well. So, and I would love candid feedback, please. Don't worry about hurting my feelings. You can't hurt my feelings. I'm too well trained. But I would love candid feedback, and you don't have to give me positive feedback, folks. Tell me what you think. Am I making any sense here? Am I being helpful? Have you enjoyed this? Would you like to do another one, as Val would say? Would you like to continue? So, and my session is over. You know, I feel, I have some pain, but I got my feet soaking in Epsom salt, warm Epsom. It's not as warm as I want it to. I got to make it a little warmer. And I'm feeling pretty good physically. Mentally, yeah, I'm getting a little tired. I talk a lot. But just really enjoyed being here. And, you know, if you want to post questions, I'll just hang out and see what happens. I have difficulty reading without my glasses, and I'm not going to type answers. Sorry, just, you know, look at that finger. What does that tell you? Extrinsic constraint to training. You know how, I got to tell this story. And, you know, hop off if you want, that's fine. But, you know, I got to tell this story. So in my journey, for my own health, for my mother's health, and, you know, Denise, you know the story about Mom. Alexandra, I can tell it later, but my mother was having significant health issues and, mental health issues, and, you know, my daughter as well. So I was sandwiched, you know, and I had a very stressful job, and it was my daughter, you know, having a really traumatic situation that caused me to focus on her, resign my, position at the DA's office and look at this holistic journey to heal myself and heal my daughter and perhaps my mother as well. And so, you know, I started with guided imagery with Belruth Naparstek. I love her. She's so amazing and such a wonderful human being. And then I got into hypnosis. I took a year-long hypnosis course through the American Hypnosis Association. And, you know, it was a good course. You know, some of the content was okay, you know, but I mean, I was like fascinated by it. But I got one course in Ericksonian hypnosis, and that thrilled me. So that caused me to move solely to Milton Erickson. Milton Hyland Erickson. Oh boy, do I have stories to tell about that journey with Milton, even though I never met him. But what my favorite saying now, with my body failing me, he was doing an induction. It was on a YouTube video that's since been pulled down by the Ericksonian Foundation because, you know, they control, you know, who gets to see what and not. But I got it. I downloaded it. I kept it. Transcribed it. You know, Milton Erickson later in life, those of you who don't know, he started off with polio, you know, 17 or something like that, and devastated, couldn't move. And he had his long journey of recovery, which I would love to go into later because I know it all. I studied on it. But later in life, and he's the grandfather of hypnosis, or conversational hypnosis, that is. And hang on a second. Thanks for the effort. Oh, you're welcome. This tells a lot about, God bless you. Thank you. So anyway, got to get to that story, and then I'm going to nod off. My brain will have an interruption as I precede that state from wakefulness and excitement, talking with you guys to go into sleep. But anyway, there was a video of him doing an induction. Now, later in life, post-polio syndrome, you couldn't understand the man. You know, you know, I mean, it was difficult to understand him. He says this was somewhere in Russia, I believe. And there was a Russian interpreter that was talking over him. Okay. So it was an added confusion, unintended added confusion technique. But he's doing an induction, and this is magnificent, of Ernest Rossi, and I did transcribe it, so I know exactly what he says, and I know the techniques, you know, or at least I think I know the techniques he was using. And he tells Ernest, that you are a mind, a bodiless mind floating through time and floating through space. That's me, baby. That's my new spirit animal. So with that, God bless you all. Many blessings, many sweet blessings to you. I will be creating at some point, based upon feedback I get and interest, an event that gives advance notice of, maybe I'll do a couple of different live sessions because I can't overtrain, right? In different time zones on a particular day or a series of days or whatever. But you'll get advance notice. I will tag you. I apologize, but that's the way things roll, baby. And you can always block me. So, there's that. But anyway, without further ado, God bless. Many sweet blessings to you. I'm here. I am not Val. I could never replace Val, but I am his endorsed emissary, and I will carry on with his mission to relieve suffering. Wherever you are, from California, Cameron Park, California, good night.